I thought it was going to be red hot. It's turned out it took a lot longer to be red hot than I ever thought it would take. AI has the potential to move it on a lot faster. We've already got AI embedded in some of our products. I do believe in autonomy, so I hire really good people and give them as much autonomy as I can. We know autonomy is a big motivator for people, and it's also simpler because if you give people autonomy, then they get on with it, basically.
It's been quite relaxing this week, in the sense that I'm really enjoying doing this with the guys, and I checked in with the team this morning. Great start to the year, and it's nice knowing now. I'm talking about it some other time, but we're on a footing for growth this year.
Good.
And
I said you would be. I mean, don't forget.
Well, your mentorship.
When you're looking for investment, I said, look, you don't need it.
Get your head down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that advice. Feel really good about the business this year, which is good. But I'll catch you for a coffee.
Yeah.
But let's talk about you. So
right.
I saw on LinkedIn yesterday that Surpass is celebrating its 40th year.
Yeah.
So before we jump into the journey of Surpass, that wasn't your career path, was it? You actually started life differently.
Oh, well, I started as a theoretical physicist, and I enjoyed research, really enjoyed it, and I really thought probably my path would become a professor of physics or something similar to that. But other factors come into play. I've got a wife who's got a career, and I also wanted a degree of choice about where I lived, really, and that was a big factor. I wanted to live near nice countryside, and Bradford, being what it is one of the perfectly positioned places for being near some nice countryside, and so that was another factor in it. And at that time, the academic world had become saturated, really. There was not a lot of opportunities coming out. I just decided that I'd make the shift, really.
And you were, is this right, you were teaching for a period of time as well?
I taught physics at Manchester Grammar School and then at Bradford Grammar School. I was head of physics at Bradford Grammar School, and both very happy experiences. I love teaching. I like especially teenagers, working with teenagers, talking about physics with them and so on. Yeah. So I was very happy doing that. But as time went on, actually quite early on, I began to think, well, there's more to how you handle teaching than just standing there repeating the same stuff every year. And I began to think about what you can do with technology. And that's how I got into doing this and began to think about creating actually initially exams using the technology. When I was at Manchester, I set up some exams on what was then called a mini computer. It was before desktop computer.
And for context, what year would that have been, Bob?
1978.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time ago. I'm pretty ancient.
No, give over. Although I wasn't born, but...
Before you were born.
Sorry.
Yeah, 1978. So I set up on the mini computer there a bunch of A-level physics tests, and I said to the lads, it's a boys' school.
Yeah.
I said to the lads, just get round there, do the test, and it'll record your result, and we'll see how you got on, really. And it worked fine. And at that point, I went to talk to what was then the JMB, it's now AQA, about what could be done. And I mean, it was like a lead balloon, no interest whatsoever. But I thought it was going to be red hot. It turned out it took a lot longer to be red hot than I ever thought it would take. As you say, 40 years. Yeah. It's moved on a lot in the last 10 years.
I mean, we'll get to some of the bold steps you took, but I know from, we know each other outside of this. So you left. You didn't leave teaching initially, did you? You actually did you set up with your mum and dad? Did your mum and dad involved as well? How the family piece, and how did that?
Yeah, I stayed in my job for quite a long time as we built the business up, and the former head of Bradford Grammar and the governors were reasonably tolerant about the situation, for which I was very grateful, really. I will say I hope that we've paid back with interest on that tolerance, because we've created over 500 jobs through the different business activity, and they're still growing. So that's how we feel. But yes, what happened was that I couldn't see a way through the educational one educational technology moving quickly. So I developed some medical electronics equipment, and as you say, we used to sell it. My father did the assembly, my mother did the marketing from their home.
I love it.
And that allowed me to stay in the job and just do the broad thinking. At the same time, I was thinking about how to do the educational issue, and being in school, I think it was absolutely crucial to that, actually.
How many, we live in an era at the minute, and I was talking about this morning and thinking about our conversation, but I was talking to one of our team members in my business,
yes,
who's, she's 25,
yeah,
she's exposed to the stuff on Instagram,
yeah,
which is get rich quick, and she thinks it's a lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
But it's like, from your point of view, it wasn't 6 months of that. That was a good few years, wasn't it? Of you basically teaching and working with your family to get the business off the ground.
Oh, well, it went on for a long time. I mean, and it is. I've never had these big lucky moments. I mean, some people get it, but it's not always a good thing, because if you build the market slowly, then it's more solid, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I do remember Tony Martinez, who ran EdTech. He had this moment when he met Kenneth Baker and introduced him to the screen, the monitors that we used for BBC microcomputer, and they were manufactured in Bradford. And he got a deal, basically, to do all the BBC microcomputers. Fantastic deal. And the company grew and did really well and floated, and it was based here in Bradford, so it was a great thing for Bradford. But I think he found it really hard to follow up on that, because it was a single really good deal. And so in some ways it's probably better to not get any of these spectacular successes, but just grow steadily and slowly.
And so your journey, so when you left, you decided to make the decision to leave teaching. And we'll get to risk, because it's a big part of, interesting, you talk about it in the book, but also something that is clear here is your risk taking seems unusual in that it doesn't seem to bother you, in that you have got a great career ahead in an academia sense, but you're thinking, well, actually, I'm going to take this business forward. So did you when you stopped the job, you just literally set up at home, or did you?
Oh no! By the time I left teaching, we had maybe 15 employees.
Wow.
Based in the former Business and Innovation Centre in the middle of Bradford, which is no longer there. It was a great facility, and lots of really good Bradford businesses started in there. And it's a bit sad that it disappeared, really, because it was really very, very, very
proper
good.
incubator, basically.
Yes, it had all the facilities, and it looked good. It had a conference centre, it had a seminar room, it had the staff, reception staff, and we grew from having one small unit in there to occupying a whole floor.
And was that council run, or was that a private? How was that set
the
up?
council definitely played the big role in developing it. I can't remember I didn't know how the economics of it worked, really. But the council had a big part in it. And I mean, there are lots, Black Marble was in there, several others that really grew very big afterwards. So it was a fantastic place
and
to be.
At the point where you were at 15 employees, then did you just get to the point in your own mind where you were like, I need to step in now to be here full time?
Yeah, I took the view I wouldn't load myself onto the business until it could afford it, basically. I mean, it's always a problem that as a founder you overhead your own business, and so and a lot of the time you're just doing things that other people can do. So I just took the view, okay, I'll focus on the things I need to do, employ other people to do the other stuff, and then eventually get to the point where the business could afford me, really, and that was the point at which I jumped, really.
So I don't know if you won't remember this, I don't think, but when we first met, I asked you, how long have you been the chair of your company? And you sort of rocked back and you went, I've pretty much since the beginning. That really blew my mind in terms of a thought, in anyone listening to this from a business perspective. And you and I know people who run businesses at different levels.
Yeah.
But that idea that you started off really from the beginning going, I'm working on it, not in it.
Yes.
And what was the true reality of that?
No, that's how I did it. I mean, I couldn't have possibly done it any other way, really, given that I was teaching. I was very lucky. Well, I don't know, lucky. I was elected to the board of a national holiday business in 1978. It's 1978, as it happens. And I learned quite quickly that you don't need to do a lot as a chairman. I wasn't chairman. I became chairman in 1983, actually. But you don't need to do a lot as a chairman, but you certainly don't need to do the chief executive's job. I thought, well, okay, if I'm going to found the business, I'm going to grow the business, I'm going to do the strategy, the innovation, but I can ask other people to do the chief executive kind of role, which is what we did. Yeah. And that worked very well. But certainly I learned that through getting onto the board of another business quite young.
And the evolution of Surpass then, so not to brush over its 40th year, that's a good stint of time, isn't it? So you have evolved that business over time. You've reinvented it, haven't you, at different stages?
We've had to reinvent it lots of times. I mean, as I say, we started with a digital assessment. We put that on one side. We put a lot of things on the shelf and keep revisiting. We still do. Yeah. And then we did the medical business, which we eventually sold off. And then I went back to multimedia in education, which is following that when the CD-ROM appeared in the late 80s. So we started selling CD-ROMs. We did educational CD-ROMs, and that grew very well. We had the Mr. Men titles, we had the AA titles, and then towards the end of the 90s, the CD-ROM market collapsed as the internet came in. And the internet was initially not multimedia at all. There wasn't the bandwidth. What it demonstrated was people were more interested in communication than they were in multimedia at that time. It's changed now because multimedia is available on the internet. Sure. But so we had to for a while we did contract work, which was pretty annoying because having got out of contract work to our own intellectual property, we had to go back to contract work for a while. And then we began to develop the intellectual property on the assessment side, which is where, in fact, I started. Yeah. And we've been in that ever since, really.
And so Surpass today, and we'll touch on some of your investments in a second, but Surpass today is quite a significant business, isn't it, based here in Bradford? You employ people.
Yes, we're very pleased that we compete with the Californians, really. I mean, what's really happened in every area of services, somebody is digitising it or has digitised it. And we got into education and to an extent healthcare as well quite early on. And it turned out to be the slowest developing of all those service areas. So a lot of them are sitting there in California, possibly Seattle and so on. But the education, we've got a strong educational one based here in Bradford, and we're really proud of that. Yeah. There's a long way to go yet. There's a lot to do.
On a long way to go. You're clearly not going anywhere.
No.
So, which is fantastic. And what do you see as the next 5 years, 10 years in the role of AI, for example? You must be thinking about artificial intelligence in your business.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, it's barely got going. If you said to me, how much have we improved education using technology so far, which was the original aim, I'd say a little bit. AI has the potential to move it on a lot faster, and so obviously I'm not going anywhere now. I'm really interested. We've already got AI embedded in some of our products, and I've got lots of ideas about what we can do next.
Fantastic.
So, I mean, I really do think that you can do something to improve education. And I'm particularly interested in physics education because in a way, there's a shortage of teachers. It's one of the hardest areas to teach, as experience often shows. And I'm really interested in how we can do that. And I've been trying to do that for a long time, and I intend to revisit that very soon, actually.
And so your style of leadership, and I was really interested in this. So obviously you're able to look at it from the top. You can look in and you can look at different areas. So you leave the stuff, I guess, that just gets on with it. So are you problem solver, or how would you? Or do you agitate for change? How do you drive that innovation?
Well, I'm certainly interested in innovation and strategy, but a lot I do by nudge, really. I sort of encourage. I mean, I do believe in autonomy, so I hire really good people and give them as much autonomy as I can, and the people I that goes all the way down through the business, I think. I hope it does. I think it does.
Yeah.
And I think most people say that. And so it does tend, we know autonomy is a big motivator for people. And it's also simpler, because if you give people autonomy, then they get on with it, basically. It calls for a different style of management. Hierarchical management just doesn't work in that situation. But that's the way I like to do it. And so I tend to just focus on the thing that's red hot at the moment, really. Sometimes it feels as though you're always dealing with problems rather than... It's a bit like you're a policeman, think everybody's a crook, you know. You tend to think everything's going wrong, but that's what it's like at the top of a business, as you know. I mean, you know, businesses are constantly... it's the duck, you know, on the surface of the water, paddling away underwater.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, I one of the things I say to directors when they join us is, all businesses look much more fragile from the board than they do
in the reality.
if you're not on the board.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a shock for some people to find what it's like when you get to the board. You know, it's not all as smooth as you thought it was going to be. But that's how it is. I mean, that's what you're doing. Business is like that. You have to worry about competition, something going wrong, all these sort of things. And that's a shock to the system for a lot of people, really. It's living with uncertainty is part of the job. I'm sure you're finding that with your job.
Yeah, I you know, still learning, I think.
Yeah.
And certainly spending time with you this year, last year, we're in 2025 now, but last year, and seeing things differently. And, you know, this week's been a big test for me with being out, trusting everybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're doing great and they want to do it. I think that autonomy piece is really important.
Yeah, I think that judgment about is it going to, on balance, is it going to work or isn't it going to work? It's really hard. I mean, you see it when people produce cash flow forecasts. You know, they're always reluctant to put anything unless they're absolutely certain. But it's no use if it's presented like that. You need to see a rough judgment about how it's going to go.
Yeah,
it's a big learning curve, really.
Surpass is an amazing business and it's continuing to grow. You're in the US, you've got a US office, you're proudly here in Bradford employing and growing people.
I mean, Sophia's used in over 140 countries now, amazing. So it's all around the world, But that's not just your only success, is it? You've invested in businesses around in the region that have become multi-million-pound businesses as well. Yeah, well, we created Virtual College, of course. That ran alongside... I set it up when I realised that there was a market in vocational training, basically. Initially with John Winkley, who'd worked with me at BTL, and he went off to conduct an own very successful career in consultancy on education. Right. So it's spin out in a way. Yeah. Rod Knox joined then, and he built that business up to a sizable business, really, based in Ilkley. Yeah, yeah. Done a lot of vocational training. I think done, I can't remember, maybe 3 or 4 million training outcomes in the time. So that's now owned by a Spanish company, which hopefully will take it to a new level. But I felt that I couldn't really do any more with it. And have you had any failure is an awful word, isn't it? But anything that you've thought it all looks good, but through circumstances didn't work out? Well, that's several. I mean, where you have an idea, you develop it, you put some investment in, and it just doesn't work. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the nature of the game, And the trick always is to make sure you can manage the downside. If it goes wrong, is it manageable? And ADI was it ran them very successfully, 20 years, did a lot of good. It's got patient communication system in Sheffield working, and it was in that sense a great success. The products are still there and doing well, but the company eventually ran out of money, which I put a lot of money into it, but it just did run out of money. But it was done in such a way I knew I could manage the downside. Yes, yeah, and so that's part of the game. But it was very. And what was the potential upside for ADI? Where were you hoping that particular business to be? Well, the aim was to get the system into as many health authorities, what do they call them, trusts? Sorry, as possible, really. It went wrong because the government announced that they were going to fund this kind of development, and the initial impact of that is that all the trusts stopped buying because they wanted to wait until the government money appeared, which it didn't do, at least for a long time. And by the time I don't know what's happened there, I've lost track of it, but we just couldn't keep going long enough. So the product is still available. It's a Canadian company called Vital Hub took on the
IP.
IP, yes, took on all the IP, and they're now running the business. It's called My Pathway, which is it's a very nice product, and I think it should do very well. But just had to. Very sad, really, but it meant it went out of Bradford hands, which is great shame.
And without getting too political today, but we were talking about it before we started, didn't we? So you've continuously invested in your businesses, and that's clearly not going to change because that's who you are.
Yeah.
But how have you found the recent budget changes and the current government's sort of approach to? There's never a right or wrong answer, is there? But how have you, as an entrepreneur and making these kinds of investments, how have you found the climate and?
Well, I mean, I don't object to wealth taxes, even or inheritance tax, but I do think that they've got it completely wrong on this one, because what the people like me who reinvest in their businesses find that they don't have much cash to play around with, and so then I've got to now think about what happens if I die. If it goes to my family, well, that was the intention, that was the plan, and they would look after the vision. Now we've got to think, where's the cash going to come from to pay the inheritance tax? Which means ultimately you've got to put some aside in the business to pay it, because it can't come from anywhere else. You're talking about many millions. Yeah. And so how can that happen? Well, it means you stop spending as much as we have been doing on the growth of the business. It's as simple as that. Yeah. There's no choice. That's how it works. And if you look at that situation up and down the country, there are huge numbers, maybe probably a quarter of the economy at least, who are having to think about it in those terms. The impact of that on growth is going to be dramatic, and I'm not sure that the government fully understand that. I've done the usual thing, write to my MP, tell people about it, but whether the message will get through, I don't know, but it needs to. I mean, if you take the two areas where you get growth in an economy, it's businesses like a small number of businesses that grow very rapidly, and then a lot of smaller businesses that just function independently. Yeah. Those smaller businesses have been heavily hit by the national insurance contribution growth increase. It's probably less serious for businesses like mine because we have bigger margins, I think. But taking those two together, they will dampen growth dramatically. And it is a concern of mine. And I felt goodwill towards the government when it came in, but I really think they need to try and understand exactly what's going on there and the impact of what they've done.
Moving back to Bradford, we've got some positive things happening this year, haven't we, with City of Culture? Embarrassingly, I've not put my badge on today.
Ah, well,
there's a new Christmas jumper. So you're not putting a pin badge on there, but next time we'll have a badge up there. Yeah. But I wear it on my days off.
Yes, and I know you wear it in your heart. It's not, got to keep talking.
Absolutely. So Bradford, you've obviously had opportunities, and I mean, you alluded to this at the beginning of the conversation, the attractiveness of countryside and being around it. Obviously, Bradford offers that. But clearly, you're at a point in your life where you could be anywhere in the world. So what's kept you in Bradford?
Oh, well, I mean, I like it. I like the people. There's a lot of people who love Bradford, really. And I like the people. Where we have our offices here in Salts Mill, it's absolutely fantastic.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's beautiful. Yeah. I've got good access to 3 national parks. We get out walking a lot. It's a great place to live. And no reason not to live here, really. It's just great.
And what would you say to someone coming into your office for a bit of advice and mentorship? They're from Bradford. Okay. You started in a different time. but you've reinvented yourself through that period of time. But someone coming into your office, because I know you do this, you've done this with me, you've helped, guided and shared some knowledge. What would you be saying to that person today, looking at 2025 to establish a business in Bradford? What would you be advising them to do?
These days, it doesn't matter where you start your business. I mean, that's a less than ever. I mean, you can hold meetings with anybody anywhere in the world at 5 minutes' notice if they want to do it. So it is all about where are you going to have. Where's it going to be nice for you to live? Where are you going to find good people to work with you?
Yeah.
And Bradford's got some great people, very entrepreneurially minded, great people, and well-educated, a lot of well-educated people around looking, lots of graduates looking for well-paid kind of work and so on. It's a very good place to do it, really. So I have no problem in recommending it. I mean, of course, we're all here. That's what we're doing. So it is. It's a great place to start.
Do you think that the City of Culture piece is generally an opportunity for us to reboot how we looked at both in the north and nationally?
Certainly, because I mean, as people often say, the image of Bradford has not always been great, and this is a great opportunity to do something about brand Bradford, really, and so that's great news in itself. I mean, I've never quite seen it in the way that some people say that it's a bad brand. I don't think it's that bad. I'm quite happily tell people where we're based. It doesn't give me a problem at all.
Yeah.
So to that extent, I don't see the negative side as badly as a lot of people do. And the positive side is again, as I say, good people, lots of talent. When you're recruiting, you can always get good applicants for jobs, and that's a great thing.
Where do you think, because we were talking about this on another episode, but where do you think this perception comes from? When you go around the country and, oh, you're from Bradford, or whatever regional accent that would be said to you in, not a Yorkshire one. But I was really cross, actually, and I won't mention who it is, but I know someone who runs a media outlet, and they'd pushed some content around that through due diligence was sort of a pulled together in Serbia, and then it was one of those clickbait links, Bradford's the most unsafe city in Europe, which was
really?
I don't know if you remember that. It was complete rubbish. But it was how that content was created. And it was that week that came out. I was travelling, I was meeting a customer down in Coventry. And the security guards at the building said, very polite, so where are you from? Oh, I was come from Bradford today. Oh, you're from Bradford, are you? And it's like, yes, it's a nice place. I don't understand where that perception comes from.
Yes. I mean, you can see that when Leeds sort of really took it's not that long ago that Bradford and Leeds, you saw them as being, certainly when we came to live here, my wife would go and shop in Bradford just as much as into Leeds, really. And that certainly changed. There's all kinds of things. There must be about the way the decisions were made. I mean, Leeds, for quite a few years, was nothing more than a stage property, really. But they managed to project the image that it was really go ahead, and Bradford really didn't do that. This is going back a long way. And I think we're still probably suffering from the failure to make the right decisions at that time. I mean, architecturally, Bradford's
it's stunning.
Beautiful, stunning. As are other places like Bingley, Keighley, and so on. Whether there's a sort of hidden racism in all this, I don't know. It might be a factor in it, but a lot of the entrepreneurial talent in Bradford is in the Asian community, so that's a great asset, really.
Yeah.
In a way, I just kind of ignore it and just get on with it.
Just crack on.
And I think that's what people should do. You just say, well, this is a great place to live. We're just going to get on with it. And I read somewhere claiming that Bradford had more entrepreneurs than any other city.
I think that's right. Yeah. I think that's right.
Obviously a lot of other people feel the same about it. I think there's perhaps a worry that a lot of the businesses created a small and stay small, and there's a need for people to look beyond Bradford itself.
Sure.
And I think that could make a big difference. But overall, I mean, that's true. Most areas have more small businesses than they have growing business. That's just how it is.
Well, we talked about before, because the previous guest was talking about Bradford, making the same point actually, which was Bradford is more of a supply chain sector, rather than, we're known for this or we're known for that. But I think that is changing, because I think we've got businesses here. I mean, if you just look at Salts Mill and the technology businesses, we're a technology service business.
Correct.
You are like Titus. And I don't know what the market capitalisation of all of that is, but it's not insignificant, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, we lost. I mean, we had Filtronic and we had Pace, and both of those have ended up in foreign hands, which is a bit unsatisfactory, really, in my opinion. They have much more potential to grow. I mean, there are pressures. I mean, this is not really to do with Bradford, but there are pressures from areas like private equity, which tend to lead to British businesses selling out early on, far more early than they do in many other countries. And that is a serious problem, in my opinion, and I don't know where it's coming from. It's probably to do with the way the tax system works. I mean, two of my businesses end up in foreign hands, basically, and I would have preferred them to continue to grow in the UK, really. And I don't think that's particularly a Bradford problem. I think that's a UK problem.
I agree. I think the investment climate. You put yourself out there and you invest in things, but you're a bit of a rarity, really. I think in terms of your approach, an honest approach. What I mean? It's a decent.
Well, I think. I mean, there's. I mean, traditionally, the banks had a role in investment in smaller businesses. That's gone. I mean, the banks barely put anything into business, and so really you're left with where do you get your finance from if you need it? And I mean, I'm a great believer in bootstrapping, because that way you keep your independence and you don't become dependent on somebody else.
And that's something you've taught me, and we'll touch on it in the book.
Yeah.
But, the idea that you don't continuously need to get investment, which I think is a concept that perpetuates itself at the minute.
I mean,
I've got to raise.
Well, our economy is finance driven. I mean, we're far more financially driven than most other countries in the world, and so people see business through the lens of finance. And so, if you start a business, you need a bank and you need an investor and all this sort of thing. And often you don't at all. In fact, it's easier to create businesses without finance now than it's ever been, especially in technology areas. As I say in the book, there's a lot of ways of thinking about it which don't involve finance, or alternative finance, like get your parents to do it, or get your mates to do it, or get a family and friends investment, which I did at one point. And so protect the downside in that way, really. It's not that easy to turn money into a good business, actually.
No, it's not.
It sounds daft, but
it's hard.
People think if you've got money, you're away, but it's not actually. I mean, the hard part is having a clear view about what you're going to do and working out how to do it. And I think in some ways, by thinking hard and thinking carefully about what you're doing, you can reduce the requirement for money and do things, in other ways.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of ways. I mean, when my dad worked for me, he was on piecework, basically. I don't know if piecework's illegal these days.
Yeah. So what was that?
Well, it just meant that he got paid a percentage of every sale. Every time he made something, he got a percentage of the sale, basically.
Fantastic.
And that was a great way of doing it, because it meant that the costs were always contained within the sale price.
Do you think he would have done that for you if he wasn't your dad? It's very sweet of him.
Well, a lot of people did do piecework. I don't know if they do now, but people did do it. But obviously, he was doing it.
But what you're saying,
my dad.
Joking aside, it was what you're saying is there's ways and means of doing things to get things going. And, yeah.
I mean, a good example is that when we made we just made audiometers for testing hearing, and the earphones cost as much as the device itself. And there was somebody had a monopoly on the earphones, worldwide monopoly. So you had to buy these things because they're the only ones that were calibrated in the appropriate way. And so I thought, well, I know how to calibrate them, and you could buy very cheap loudspeaker units for earphones from somewhere in the Far East. So I just bought a huge box of these, and you had to pair them, and just went through them one by one to find a pair that fitted. And so the cost of that was the cost of finding pairs that fitted, and that dropped the price from, I don't know, it was about £130 for a pair of headphones at that time, down to about £1.
Wow.
So that was just thinking hard about it and what can we do.
Do you think I think that's sort of coming back into vogue? Like, I grew up with parents that had their own business, and I think that it washed over me, in terms of I was in it, I was involved in it, so was my brother.
Yeah.
And that kind of, we use that term hustle mentality, but finding a solution despite the odds.
Yeah, you've got to find out. Yeah, you always find a way. The problem, you find a way around it. And I mean, the other thing about growing up in a family like that is you do learn that business comes first. I mean, rightly or wrongly. I mean, perhaps it's not consistent with modern view of life, balance and so on. But my dad had a soft drinks business, and so that meant whenever the sun shone, it was that working.
Yeah.
And in particular, in the summer when we were on holiday, he was there.
Also, so literally selling the drinks as he goes
because,
around?
I mean, soft drinks, as soon as the sun shines, the volume of production goes up dramatically. And so you've got to be there taking the most of the opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
So that was how it worked, really. But yeah, you just learnt that you couldn't just say, well, I'm not working today because it's 5 o'clock. It just doesn't.
I've been built like that, and I think there's people in our business that are learning that, or a program naturally to start thinking, actually, this is real life, and business takes time, and it needs thought and persistence every day.
Yes,
so those sorts of things.
And I mean, society does tend to move towards risk avoidance. I mean. There's a career pathway. You should go to school, go to university.
Yes.
Get a nice, safe job and join a profession and stay in it for the rest of your life.
I felt I was told that quite heavily because I came through the Labour government years of Tony Blair, which was education.
Yes.
And I think that definitely affected my parents' outlook with me and my brother, because they were desperate for us to go to university.
Yes.
And maybe not so much the message from the government, but that was an aspiration for them, I think. But going into the fish and chip shop business, although me and my brother how successful we were, I don't know. I've probably got rosy tints now of me and my brother being really good at it. But it's that idea that, well, that's what me and your dad do, but we want you to go do this. And
there's a perception that doing things that are safe and risk-free is kind of higher status, and that's that needs to change. I mean, it's just these are important jobs, of course. Lawyers, accountants, do important jobs in the economy, but I think it is fair to say too many people go into jobs like that, and not enough are going into jobs where you create new business, create new jobs. I mean, there was a time when you felt as though that was the last thing people did. You did whatever you could, and if you couldn't do anything else, you go into business. Well, that's really an outrageous, because I mean, in the end, these are the people who are creating wealth in the economy, and we need more of them. It does annoy me that the people who do take the risks, and they're taking big personal risks, get not much thanks, really, and a lot of brickbats as well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And when they begin to make a lot of money, people
start throwing darts
pointing
at them.
fingers, throwing darts at them. And that's a great shame, because there is. I mean, it's well known that a lot of people fail and will lose all their money. I mean, maybe they mortgage their house to get going, and that kind of the whole of society, the whole infrastructure of society depends on people doing that. But the price is paid by those people who try to fail.
Yeah.
That's really pretty sad. I mean, fortunately, most people work work out ways round it and so on. But and you know, as I say in the book, failure is not necessarily the end of the road if you've got the resilience to keep going, find new ways through it.
You've been really good with people around you and mentoring, and I will get to the book in a second, but there's bits in there that are fresh in the memory. Especially, there's one story, isn't there, of if you're helping someone's grandson, for example, and helping them in the business. But before we get into the book, just to finish with your work in the area, so you don't just shut the door at night. You've got something called Bradford Breakthrough that you set up, and that's had some real impact, hasn't it?
Well, Bradford Breakthrough's been there for a long time. I mean, I joined it fairly early on, but it's been there a long time, and it's tried to do, you know, it's called Bradford Breakthrough, something for Bradford's businesses, aside from what the Chamber of Commerce does. The Chamber of Commerce is very important, but it tried to do something a little bit more in terms of perhaps larger businesses and so on. How successful it's been, I don't know. We've only got limited resource. It's entirely self-funded, which is very important. So we don't beholden to anybody else. We're not and we do quite a bit of lobbying work. We spend a lot of time. If we see an opportunity for Bradford, we'll go to talk to the MPs or House of Lords. We had Rishi Sunak just before he stopped being Chancellor, actually. I can't remember what we went to see him about. Actually. Oh, it's the Bradford Railway, the new railway. And I'm sure that helped. And it does seem to be, I mean, over time and again, we're told that if a business group turns up at the House of Commons or the House of Lords or whatever, it has much more impact than the usual faces that they're used to. So we're always willing to do that, and we try to synchronise that with whatever the local authority is doing at any one time. And so we've spent quite a lot of time doing that sort of thing, really. Yeah.
So that's something which I think is really important, isn't it? It's helping the community basically move on.
I suppose. So I don't know how effective it is. You never do know with this sort of thing, but you just plug away at it and hope for the best, and hope it does have some impact.
And just to sort of close on Bradford, but what do you think the future for the city and area is then in your mind? Where not trying to go, well, this will be what it'll be, but where do you think Bradford will be in 5 years' time compared to its regional neighbours?
Well, hopefully the City of Culture here is going to have a big impact. I think that the entrepreneurial side should have a big impact longer term. It takes a long time for these things to come through, really. Certainly I hope that that's what's going to happen. I mean, the city centre issue is... what that's going to be like, I don't know. It's beginning to look very nice, actually. And hopefully it's going to come on. What's going to happen to retail, I really don't know. I mean, it's quite clear that most people are moving to online purchasing for almost everything. And so the shape of the city centre is going to be very different to a traditional city.
And I think with City Village going in there, they're knocking down the 70s sort of concrete stuff out there and putting it in the City Village. So it's almost building a city within it and rebirthing it that way, I suppose. I mean, I was very excited the other weekend. They've opened a Warhammer shop, which I'm a frustrated Warhammer player. I don't play it. I just look at the painted figures. So I took my eldest daughter in there, who's far too young. She's 3.5.
Right.
She started crying. So that was hopefully not an omen for me. So I said, when she gets about 5 or 6, we're going to do it. But it was just nice being in the city centre with my family. It was during Christmas and we were down there. And I used to go loads as a kid, but it dropped off, didn't it? Like most people, people just started going to Leeds. But I think it's definitely coming back.
I mean, I think the point is, and it's over and over again being said, that the rail links across the north are not good enough. I mean, we ought to be able to regard Manchester, Bradford, and Leeds as part of the same city, really, in a way. I mean, it's not bigger in area than London, and yet, going to Manchester is a day's expedition.
It is, isn't it?
And going to Manchester Airport is a day's expedition.
It's very stressful. It's hard.
I mean, I just found out there isn't at the moment a direct train from Leeds to Manchester Airport, would you believe? You've got to change in Manchester. Well, I mean, that is just pathetic. That's gone backwards in a way.
Yeah.
But Bradford needs to be on that. Bradford needs to be on that connection, and it's so you can just move that very quickly between all these cities.
And this is something which I was at a roundtable dinner last year, and that was a topic of conversation.
Well,
and
yeah.
I threw a spanner in the works because it sort of becomes this. You hear about the transport talk quite a lot, and it's like, well, how do you solve that problem? And I was saying, well, what if we flew to Norway and we spoke to Norwegian Oil Fund and said, we need 10 billion to build this thing, and this is what this is what the business plan would be. And I don't understand why we don't think like that.
I agree, and I don't understand the constraints on local government, and I don't understand the constraints on.
And maybe someone will
businesses.
help us with that. Maybe we just don't know.
But, we don't know. But I mean, that is a huge area. I mean, the Victorians didn't mess around like that. They didn't wait for somebody to give them a grant from Westminster. They just got on with it. Titus Salt and the other big Victorian mill owners. I know they were at the heart of a very wealthy city, but they just got on with it. And I don't see why we can't just get on with it here as well. And it's working out what to do. It may be that you need to raise finance for this. Or absolutely right. Why not find other ways of raising finance if they can't do it through the existing?
There's been talk, hasn't there, of that national. Is it? I don't know if it's the pension pot or something. Is it £400 billion? And they're saying turning that into a special fund. But it'd be interesting to see whether the government has that kind of appetite for, like you're saying, going back to risk, isn't it?
I'm not a fan of sort of central government doing anything efficiently. I mean, all the experience is that it doesn't tend to work. Well, we know it wouldn't. I mean, how come the supermarket shelves in Russia were half empty all the time? You need to imagine the government running supermarkets to think what it really means. So I think we need to think about other ways of doing things and work out how to get access to finance if that's what's needed, or just to get the job. It is again, sit down, work out what can be done. I think local authority have a difficult job because they've been constrained more and more by central government, and I certainly think devolution. The more devolution, the better, really. And it's going to be a slow process, but there must be other ways of.
There must be.
Things done.
I think this is throwing the question out there, isn't it? But it is interesting. But we'll keep plugging away at it.
Yeah. Exactly.
This has been sat here since we started. I've taken this to Chicago and showcased it for you while I was out there.
Oh, that was very good. I was really impressed by that. Yeah.
It took about all of 20 different takes. My wife was taking the video, but
when I saw the thing, I thought. You're holding it up and shit. I thought, this book's being read by international playboys.
If only. That comment will come back to haunt me, if only. Depends on the definition of international playboys, as long as I'm with my family. So Worthwhile Wealth, and I think it's amazing. I think it's a really well-written book, and you'll tell us some of the secrets about this in a second. But anyone that has done what you've done in your career and then taken the time to share that knowledge in something like this, pretty incredible. So tell us, what was the inspiration for writing a book? Well,
I mean, I've been thinking about the things that I talk about in the book for quite a while, and I've been involved with business people, and not just. In fact, what always struck me was
Sorry, Bob, we should do that as well. People are trying to. Right, we'll do it.
What always struck me was that many of my business colleagues are not actually primarily motivated by money. They want to make money, and they want it as a measure of performance. They need to live, but actually they're nearly always motivated by a vision of doing something worthwhile. And sometimes it's about creating a big business. Sometimes it's about creating something good for the community. Sometimes it's just about getting in a position where they do things that they like doing themselves. And so I wanted to try and get across the message that it's this thing about finance dominating everything. Finance is not the only reason for people doing things. And most people know that, actually. People in jobs, they're happy in their jobs, they just say, well, so what? I've known that all my life. That's why I didn't set up a business, or that's why I didn't do this, or whatever. So it's recognising that there are many ways of going at these things which are not just about making a bomb. And when you listen to the national discourse, sometimes you think that that's, a lot of people seem to take the view that's the only reason that motivates business people at all. And it's quite wrong. And so I wanted to, that was the thing. And I've had this idea in mind for 10 years, really. And we've been, with Sally, who works with me, we've been looking for somebody to help me write it. Because I realised well, first of all, I'm a bit academic in my writing. I'm a bit boring, I tend to want to cross the I's and dots the T's. And we're looking for somebody to probably ghostwrite. Well, I didn't think of ghostwriting originally, but it was obviously the sort of thing. But we could never find anybody who really we felt could fit the bill. And then I heard a lady on the radio, Shannon Kyle, talking about it. And she just came across as great. So we said, we got in touch. How about it? And she said, well, I can give you 6 months, starting almost next week. As it happened, somebody dropped out. So
Amazing.
6 months starting next week. So I just had to start doing it, and that kind of pushed me into getting it done. And she was great. I mean, she was absolutely brilliant. She produced a couple of chapters, sent them to me. Does that sound like your voice? I have no idea. I asked other people, and they said, yeah, that sounds like it. So we worked together. I mean, I spent a lot of time talking to her, writing notes, bullet points, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And she just turned it into something far better than I could ever have done, really.
And is it, I've looked at it a couple of times now. I took it away on holiday and had time to read it. And I keep flicking back because it's one of those things you flick back to. And there's a couple of, I don't want to put any spoilers out there because people need to buy it and read it. but it's almost like a framework for living, isn't it? It's not. It's more than you see these books where it's how to sell more in 10 days, and it's none of that. It is very much about building a framework in your life and building the metrics that build a rewarding life that isn't just about money, isn't it?
That was the hope. Yeah, that was certainly the hope when I put it together, and hopefully. It does that, yeah.
And is that how? Because we've talked about it a couple of times, but risk is something which I find fascinating with you, in that you seem absolutely relaxed. There must be things that rile you up, but from a risk perspective, do you just balance it? Like you say, look at the downside. But what does that mean to you? What does risk management mean?
It took me a long time to shake off the shackles, really, but. In science research, then you're constantly doing this, because if you can't follow all the paths that are available to you, and so you've got to make a judgment about which route to follow. And if you make the wrong judgment, that's your career over, basically. Too many wrong judgments, no more career. And right judgments are, could be a Nobel Prize or something like that. So scientists are doing it all the time, but their prize is not money or growing the business. It's just success in a scientific sense. It's just the same in business. You just make a judgment. You say, well, do we do this? Do we do that? Okay, well, my judgment is that probably will work. But then immediately I was just saying, well, okay, if that goes wrong, what's the consequences? And I always try to make sure that the consequences are not serious enough to put you out of business. I mean, most of the people I know in business think I'm the most cautious business person they know, and I am fairly cautious. As a business has grown bigger, and I've more personal resources, we've been able to take bigger risks, but the risks are always proportionate to what I can afford, basically.
Yeah. So you don't bet the ranch.
No, I don't bet the ranch, but I'm willing to bet quite a lot. On some things, and so that's why I'm relaxed, because I try to make sure that it isn't going to screw me, basically. I wouldn't be relaxed if I thought I was, if I had a mortgage and I thought I was going to lose my mortgage and lose my house if it all went wrong. I certainly wouldn't be relaxed in that situation.
No, and I think that's something what would be thrown back at you, certainly even probably me now. I mean, we took investment initially from John and Susie Seaton of Twinkle. Great couple, and have built an amazing business over there with lots of good people. But we're very much, we're on our own now and have been for the last 18 months in the sense that it has to work as a business, and it has been. The last 12 months have been fantastic for Chris. But I suppose my mentality on risk has settled down in a way where, I know what my mortgage is. We've got childcare. And I don't really want for things, and that's why this really resonated with me, because I'm not thinking I really need that Lamborghini, and I need the 20,000 for the gambling at the weekend, or for the
exactly.
So it's interesting, isn't it, that actually what you're saying that really resonates with me, where money is very important, and we've got people's livelihoods to be responsible for, but it's calculated risks then of new product development and reinvesting. And
I know a lot of people who say, well, I've made my money and I can now do what I want, but I don't know what I want to do. And so really it'd be a good idea to bring that forward earlier in your career, earlier in what you're doing, and try and think about it and think what you really want to do, rather than just sort of like a rat in a maze, just charging off in one in one direction.
That's something which comes across in the book, I think, where you pick out different stories, and that's really helpful for people. So
well, I mean, my favourite is my old friend Dave Stewart, who just was in teaching and just decided he couldn't do it anymore, and he said he went to a careers advisor chappie. I'm assuming it was a chappie. I don't know whether it was a chappie or a lady, actually. But they said, well, what do you like doing? What do you like doing? I like singing. They said he hadn't sung for a long time, but I like singing. Oh, okay. And what are you trained to do? Teach. So, well, isn't it obvious what to do? But of course, he wasn't trained in music in that sense. So he had to work out a way of making a living doing singing. Amazing. Which he did. I mean, he just created choirs, and so it's a lifestyle business in a sense. But I mean,
but he's happy.
Well, when you see him in action, you can't help but be amazed. I mean, here's a guy, if ever you see somebody in the flow, he's in the flow and he's doing his singing with his choirs.
And I think to leave it on that point and to close the book off, that's something which you're not. This isn't a guide to being a multi-million-pound business, is it? And it's not a guide to opening 50 shops. This is a framework really for your life. And I think when you can put it into that context, whatever those goals might be, like you really think you've got a market opportunity, as long as you're following the framework for happiness, you're not becoming I need 50 stores. Well,
I mean, the on the Amazon it was an Amazon bestseller on its first day. And in one of the sections it was in was psychology. Another one's philosophy, and I think the other one was something to do with business. But you think, well, what's going on there? And it is exactly the point you're making. It's not really about business, it's about how to organise your life in such a way you can do the things that you think are worthwhile or that you.
It does the job on that, and I hope people listening to this give it a go.
So do I. Got to buy the book first.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And is there plans to do a follow-up? Are you going to do? Have you got a writing book now? Do you think you'll do any more?
I'm going to see how it goes. Really. Yeah. I mean, frankly, if nobody's much interested, then I won't. Do
you know? It's like the business, isn't it? It's one of those where again. Pushing things out there, it's taking risk. It's that feeling of I'm putting some content out there, and
you're right on that. I mean, when I did it when we brought it out, I just suddenly realised you're really exposing yourself when you do it, because you don't know whether people are going to like it or not. And I mean, your friends all say it's great, and nice people amazing. Like you all say that, but you don't really know whether everybody else thinks it's utter rubbish. Yeah. And so, yes, it's like a business. You just take a risk, you're putting it out there, and you're exposing yourself, and you don't know what the response is going to be. But, I mean, society depends on people doing that kind of thing, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
All sorts of...
So we hopefully have a New York Times bestseller living in Bradford.
Well, I never know. It was an Amazon bestseller on its first day, but that's about it so far.
No, keep pushing it, Bob. Well, look, thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences, and certainly around the book. I think people should get that, either download it or go buy it. It's brilliant. And thank you for being a friend and helping me and continuing pushing Bradford's narrative.
Good. Well, thanks for inviting me. There's a new career for you as an interviewer. You're very good at it.
Thanks, Bob. Now you're charming.
if it all goes wrong.